My name doesn't matter as much as what I did with it. 5 years married to Daniel, and somewhere along the way, I became a stranger in my own house. "I'll be late again," Daniel said that morning, not even looking up from his laptop. "You're always late," I said. "Work doesn't stop because you're annoyed with me." I didn't answer. I just grabbed my suitcase and left for the airport. Chicago was cold, but the hotel bar was warm, and Marcus was already there. 2 drinks in? "You made it," he said, smiling like I was the only person in the room. "I saved you a seat." "You saved me a drink too, I see." "Guilty." He slid the glass toward me. "Rough flight?" "Rough everything lately." "Daniel again?" I hated that he knew. I hated more that I'd told him. "He didn't even say goodbye this morning," I said. "I'd never let you leave without saying goodbye." "Marcus, I'm serious. You deserve someone who notices you." I should have stood up then. I should have said goodnight and gone to my room alone. Instead, I let him order another round. Instead, I laughed too easily at things that weren't that funny. Instead, I let his hand rest on mine, and I didn't move it away. "Come upstairs," he said quietly. "Just to talk." I knew it wasn't just to talk. I went anyway. I woke up the next morning to sunlight through unfamiliar curtains, Marcus asleep beside me, and a silence in my chest louder than any argument Daniel and I had ever had. "It's one night," I told myself. "It doesn't have to mean anything." I believed that lie for exactly as long as it took me to get dressed. The apartment smelled like Daniel's coffee when I walked in, and for a second I let myself believe nothing had changed. "Hey," he said, actually looking up this time. "How was the trip?" "Long," I said. "Busy." "You look tired." "I am." He crossed the room and hugged me, and I stood there stiff in his arms, my guilt pressing against my ribs like something alive. "I missed you," he said. "I know I've been distant." "I want to fix that." "You don't have to say that. I mean it." "Let's have dinner tonight." "Just us." I almost cried right there in the hallway. "I'd like that." For a few hours, I let myself pretend the trip never happened. Then Priya called. "How was Chicago?" she asked. "Fine. Productive." "You sound weird." "I'm just tired, Priya." "You always say that when something's wrong." "Nothing's wrong." "Okay." A pause. "You know you can tell me anything, right?" "I know." "I mean it. Anything. There's nothing to tell." The lie came out so easily it scared me. Priya knew me better than anyone, and even she couldn't see the crack running straight through me. "All right," she said. "Dinner Friday?" "Sure." I hung up and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my hands like they belonged to someone else. Daniel was in the kitchen, humming, happier than he'd been in months. And I hated myself for how relieved that made me feel. If no one finds out, I thought, maybe it never really happened. I didn't believe it. Not even for a second. Daniel was sitting at the kitchen table when I got home, my jacket folded in front of him, a piece of paper flat on top of it. "Daniel?" "Sit down. What's going on?" "Sit down, please." I sat. My eyes went to the paper before I could stop them. A hotel receipt. Room service. 2 robes. A bottle of wine. My stomach dropped straight through the floor. "I was doing laundry," he said, voice flat, controlled. "It fell out of your pocket." "Daniel, I can explain." 2 robes, he said like he hadn't heard me. 1 bottle of wine. "You told me you don't drink wine on work trips." "You told me that specifically because I asked." "It's not what it looks like." "Then tell me what it looks like." I opened my mouth and nothing came out. There was no version of the truth that wasn't exactly what it looked like. "I was lonely," I finally said. "You've been so distant and I made a mistake." "A mistake is forgetting to call." "This isn't that. Please let me explain. Who was it?" I didn't answer. "Who, Elena?" Hearing my name in his mouth like that broke something in me. "Marcus," I whispered. He didn't yell. He didn't throw anything. He just nodded slowly, like a man confirming something he already suspected, and that quiet was worse than any scream could have been. "Daniel, please. I need you to stop talking now," he said. "I need you to just stop." He stood, picked up the receipt, and walked into the bedroom. He didn't slam the door. He closed it softly, and somehow that sound was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. 3 days later, Daniel had a suitcase by the door. "You're leaving?" I'm staying at my brother's. Daniel, please, can we talk about this? I already talked to a lawyer. The words hit harder than anything he'd said in the kitchen. A lawyer? It's been 3 days. It's been 3 days since I found out. It's been longer than that since you decided our marriage didn't matter. That's not fair. None of this is fair, he said, and for the first time his voice cracked. But I'm not spending the next year of my life fighting for something you already threw away. I made one mistake. You made a choice, he said. Every night in that hotel was a choice. Stop calling it a mistake like it just happened to you. He picked up the suitcase and left. The door clicked shut, and the apartment felt enormous and empty around me. My phone rang an hour later. Renata, how could you do this to him? She said before I could even say hello. Renata, he called me crying, Elena. My brother doesn't cry. I know I hurt him. You didn't hurt him. You destroyed him. 5 years and you threw it away for what? A fling? I had no answer that wouldn't sound pathetic out loud. I hope it was worth it, she said, and hung up. I sat on the couch in the half-empty apartment, surrounded by the shape of a life I'd broken with my own hands, and I finally let myself cry. I found Marcus in his office before the morning meeting. Can we talk? I asked, closing the door behind me. Elena, this isn't a good time. Daniel filed for divorce. He didn't even look up from his monitor. I'm sorry to hear that. That's it? I'm sorry to hear that? What do you want me to say? I don't know, Marcus. Something. Anything. My marriage is over because of us. Because of you, he said quietly. You're the one who was married. I stared at him, waiting for the man from the hotel room to show up, the one who said I deserved to be noticed. He wasn't in the room. You told me you'd never let me leave without saying goodbye, I said. Remember that? That was a nice thing to say at a bar. It wasn't a promise, so what was I to you? A colleague I made a bad decision with. That's all it was, Elena. That's all it can be. I walked out before I said something I couldn't take back and ran straight into Tessa by the elevators. Everything okay? She asked, eyes flicking toward Marcus's office. Fine. You two seemed pretty intense in there. It was a work thing. Right, she said, in a tone that told me she didn't believe a word of it. By lunch, I caught 2 coworkers whispering when I walked past, and one went silent the second she saw me. I felt the walls of my life closing in from every direction. My marriage gone, my lover indifferent. And now my reputation slipping through my fingers too. I had given up everything real for a man who never intended to give me anything back. Priya showed up at my door without calling first. You've been avoiding me, she said, walking in before I could answer. I've been busy. Don't do that. Don't lie to me again. I froze. What do you mean again? I mean Chicago. I mean whatever happened there that you wouldn't tell me about. She crossed her arms. Is it true? You and Marcus? My silence answered for me. God, Elena. She sat down hard on the couch. Daniel's filing for divorce because of an affair? Your affair? It wasn't supposed to happen. Things like that don't just happen. You made a choice. Over and over, probably, before Chicago even happened. You don't understand what my marriage was like. So instead of talking to Daniel or leaving him if you were that unhappy, you slept with your boss. Don't act like you're better than me. I'm not better than you, she said. I just didn't destroy someone who loved me to feel good for one night. Get out. Elena, get out, Priya. She stood slowly, hurt written across her face. I came here because I still care about you. But you need to hear this from someone. You did this. Not Daniel, not bad luck. You. She left. And the door closing behind her felt like the last piece of my old life falling away. I sat in the silence that followed. Husband gone, lover gone, now my best friend too. And for the first time, I stopped making excuses. I did this. All of it. Every choice had been mine. Mr. Coleman from HR called me into a small conference room on Thursday morning. Take a seat, Elena. Is this about the rumors? It's about a formal complaint. Marcus's wife contacted us directly. We're required to open an investigation into workplace conduct. My stomach turned to ice. His wife knows? That's not something I can discuss. What I need is your account of the relationship. Before I could answer, the door opened and Marcus walked in. Jaw tight, refusing to look at me. Marcus, I was just explaining the process to Elena. Mr. Coleman said. Good, because I want to be clear, Marcus said. Whatever happened was a lapse in judgment on a work trip. I take responsibility for poor boundaries as her manager. That's all you're going to say? I asked. What else is there? Tell him the truth. Tell him you pursued me for months. I invited a colleague for a drink, Marcus said, voice cold and rehearsed. What she chose to do with that invitation isn't something I can control. Are you serious right now? Elena, I have a wife. Kids. I'm not letting my career and my family fall apart over one mistake. One mistake I'm apparently responsible for alone. I never promised you anything, he said. You knew what this was. Mr. Coleman cleared his throat. I think we should continue this separately. Marcus stood and left without another word, without a single glance back at me. I sat there, humiliated in front of a stranger, watching the last illusion I had about Marcus crumble completely. He had never loved me. He had never even respected me. I had burned my entire life down for a man who wouldn't even admit my name meant something to him. The job termination letter came a week after the HR investigation closed. I read it standing in my kitchen, and instead of panicking, I felt strangely calm. You're fired too? Priya asked when I called her, the first time we'd spoken since our fight. Mutual settlement, technically. Same thing. Elena, I'm sorry. I know I said harsh things. You were right, I said. That's why I'm calling. Not to fix things fast. Just to say I heard you. Silence on the line. Okay, she finally said. That's a start. I found a therapist named Dr. Whitfield the following week. Why are you here? She asked in our first session. Because I don't know how to be alone with myself? That's honest. I keep waiting for someone to forgive me. Daniel, Priya, even Marcus somehow. Like their forgiveness will fix what I did. Do you think you deserve it? I don't know. But I think I need to stop waiting for it. She nodded slowly. That's usually where the real work starts. I moved into a small one-bedroom across town. No one helped me carry boxes. I assembled a bookshelf alone, badly, and left it crooked on purpose as a reminder. I started cooking real meals instead of takeout. I made a budget and stuck to it. I went to bed some nights without crying, which felt like its own strange miracle. Priya came over a month later, unprompted. This place is small, she said, looking around. It's mine, I said. That's what matters, she smiled just slightly. You seem different. I'm trying to be someone I can actually respect. That's a good place to start. I still had a long way to go. But for the first time in months, I was walking there on my own feet, answering to no one but myself. Daniel was already at the lawyer's office when I arrived, sitting stiffly at the long table, papers spread out in front of him. Elena, he said, nodding once. Daniel. We sat across from each other while the lawyers explained the final terms. I barely heard the details. I was watching Daniel's hands, steady on the table, no wedding ring anymore. Sign here, the lawyer said, sliding the papers toward me. I picked up the pen but didn't sign yet. Can I say something first? Daniel looked at me warily. What? I'm not going to ask you to forgive me. I know I don't get to ask for that. Okay. I just need you to know I'm sorry. Not because the marriage ended, but because I did that to you. You didn't deserve it. He was quiet for a long moment. I believe you're sorry, he said finally. That doesn't change anything for me. I know. I'm not saying that to hurt you. I'm just being honest. That's fair, I said, and I meant it. You don't owe me anything. Not even an answer. Something in his expression softened, just slightly. I hope you figure yourself out, Elena. I really do. I'm trying. He nodded, and that was it. No dramatic goodbye, no last embrace. Just two people signing their names on a page, closing a chapter that used to be a whole life. I signed my name and slid the papers back across the table. Walking out of that office, I didn't feel relief exactly, and I didn't feel forgiven. But I felt something steadier than either of those things. I didn't need Daniel's forgiveness anymore. I didn't need Marcus's approval, or Priya's understanding, or anyone else's permission to move forward. The only person I had to answer to now was myself. And for the first time in a long time, I was ready to